You know the exact feeling. A deadline approaches, the clock ticks down, and instead of working, you sit there scrolling. Then the panic sets in, followed by a heavy, sinking spiral of guilt. Common advice often labels this behavior as laziness or a lack of discipline. We respond by buying planners, downloading new apps, and trying to manage our time. Yet for many, the planners stay empty and the apps remain unopened. These tools often fail because they target the way we organize our minutes rather than the reason we avoid the work in the first place. This persistent struggle suggests the problem isn't a character flaw or a scheduling error. It points toward a conflict happening deeper in the brain. Psychologist Dr. Tim Pychyl, who has studied this for decades, argues that to understand delay, we have to look past the clock. His research shows that procrastination is an emotion regulation problem. When we face a daunting project, we are often processing intense boredom, frustration, or adicophobia, the paralyzing fear of failure. Avoiding the task is a subconscious coping mechanism, a way for the brain to escape those uncomfortable feelings in the present moment. Staring at a to-do list and freezing is a physiological response to an emotional threat. Two factions drive this behavior. The prefrontal cortex handles rational planning, while the limbic system is your emotional core. Facing a difficult task, the amygdala, your threat detection center, perceives negative emotions as physical threats. This amygdala hijack instantly overpowers the prefrontal cortex, shutting down logic. Then a neurochemical trap is set. The moment you abandon your work for a distraction, the brain releases a surge of dopamine. That dopamine hit wires your neural pathways to view procrastination as a rewarding survival tactic, ensuring the behavior will be repeated. In this battle between long-term logic and short-term relief, evolution heavily favors the immediate comfort. Curious, but why does the rational brain surrender so easily? You know the future consequences of a missed deadline will be painful. Hal Hirschfield at UCLA mapped this out using fMRI scans to study a phenomenon known as future self-continuity. He scanned subjects' brains while they thought about three things: themselves in the present, a random stranger, and themselves years in the future. The results showed a massive disconnect. The neural regions activating for your future self match the exact patterns used for a complete stranger. Biologically, we lack future self-continuity. The brain cannot recognize the person you will become in a week or a year. We abandon our tasks because the brain calculates that tomorrow's stress belongs to someone else entirely. Fighting procrastination with sheer willpower is biologically difficult. You are essentially trying to out-negotiate a neural threat response. To bypass the amygdala's alarm system, you have to shrink the perceived emotional threat. Research demonstrates that consistent mindfulness and emotional regulation practices can physically shrink the volume of the amygdala, reducing its hyperreactivity to stress. In daily practice, this means breaking a massive task into microscopic, almost trivially small steps. By lowering the emotional stakes of starting, you allow the prefrontal cortex to stay online and initiate action. The next step is to close the neurological gap between your present identity and your future identity. You can do this using the temporal bridge method, a psychological tool used to build future self-continuity. A common exercise is the Tuesday test. You vividly visualize the mundane details of an average Tuesday 3 years from now, what you eat, who you talk to, making your future identity feel concrete. When your future self feels familiar rather than foreign, your brain stops discounting future consequences and starts protecting that identity's interests. Procrastination is an evolutionary mismatch. By managing your immediate emotions and finally meeting your future self, you can stop fighting your own biology and just start.